Hello, everyone. It's Dr. G. I hope you're having a tremendous week and that all is going well for you. We are going to discuss the topic of hypotheses today, particularly in the context of marketing research. So here's what I want to cover today. I want to explain the various types of hypotheses and then what are the good elements? What makes a good hypothesis? Creating testable hypothesis based on a research question and your research question that you are using for your project. So we do have an activity this week and I want you to be able to create 4 testable hypotheses that you will use in your research for your semester project. So what I need you to do is go to Canvas and go to our module on hypotheses and variables. Take out the activity sheet, download it, type right in there, or you can chicken scratch if you want, but have this available to you while we go through this video because it's going to help you out. All right, I'm sure you've heard the word hypothesis before. I mean, many of us use that in our everyday language, right? Well, I hypothesized this, or she had a hypothesis that this would happen. So basically, what a hypothesis is, sometimes you'll hear it as an educated guess, but it's a specific testable prediction that something's going to happen. And if you think about it, it's what you expect will happen in a particular circumstance. So we have an educated guess, right? But we need to develop a formal statement based on the type of hypothesis that we believe we are studying. So it contains 3 things. A hypothesis includes variables that can be manipulated or measured. So if you remember from another video, if you eat ice cream every day, will your waistline increase? That would be a question, and the hypothesis would be, if I eat ice cream every day for a month, my waistline will increase 1.5 inches. So I'm making an educated guess based on the variables. It also identifies the population to be examined. So what I just said is if I eat ice cream every day for a month, I will increase my waist size 1.5 inches. So you could say a population could be college students. It could be, whatever you want, whoever you want the population to be. So it must also propose an outcome. So here are a few. If you drink Red Bull before you go to bed, then it'll take you longer to fall asleep. If you wear sunscreen, then it reduces the chance of skin burns. Automobile A gets as good of gas mileage as automobile B. Customer loyalty for brand A is as good as customer loyalty for brand B. So each of these have the elements of what's needed for a hypothesis. So here's what it has to be. A hypothesis has to be able to be tested. So you could test my waistline and you could test how much it grows if I eat ice cream every day for a month. And you need to either verify or falsify that claim or that guess. Hypotheses are not moral and ethical questions. So it's not, if should I do this or could I do that? They're based on factual information. So not getting into messing with morals or ethics. It's not too specific or not too general. And it is a prediction of consequences, one or the other. And it can be considered valuable even if it's not right. There's so many times where people will believe that their hypothesis has to be the right answer. No, we're proving something. We're proving something as being valid or invalid. So it's okay to be wrong. That's how we learn. So why do we do these things anyways? It helps us investigate objectively. So you can go into a research study and have lots of ideas, but if you're not concretely placing in a statement what you are trying to measure, you can manipulate the results, right? It provides direction to conduct research. It also has clear and specific goals for the researcher, and it links theories into practice. So you can take something that's nebulous and start to put rigor around it and test it. And then if the results are what you like, you can put it into practice. So what makes a good hypothesis? It's based on an educated guess, right? Sound reasoning. And that could come from experience. It could come from a literature review. It could come from studies that have been done in the past. It could come from observation. And provides an explanation for the predicted outcome. So why do you think? Why do you think it's going to happen? And it also clearly states the relationship between the two defined variables. So I said ice cream and waistline. They're easy to measure. You need to have a hypothesis that you can actually measure, and then it needs to be a reasonable amount of time. So there are 4 different types of hypotheses that we're going to discuss: simple versus complex, associative versus causal, directional versus non-directional, and null versus research. So let's start off with simple. Simple versus complex. A simple hypothesis reflects the relationship between 2 variables. The lower the sleep at night before an exam, the higher the less of test anxiety. So my 2 variables, it's very simple, is the level of sleep and test anxiety. So it's the relationship between 2 variables, ice cream and waistline. A complex hypothesis reflects the relationship between more than 2. So you're just adding more variables to the mix. Student satisfaction is higher for those who work and live on campus rather than those who do not work and live on campus. So student satisfaction is one variable. Work on campus is one variable. Live on campus is a third variable. So let's practice here. Okay, so if any of you remember the hot pre-pandemic show, Tiger King on Netflix, Carol Baskin's nemesis of Joe Exotic from the Netflix documentary Tiger King has joined this season's Dancing with the Stars. Now, what I want you to do is, knowing that Carol Baskin is going to be on the show, write a simple hypothesis for your prediction for how she will perform. So I want you to take a second or two to think about what you think will happen to Carol when she goes on Dancing with the Stars. Yep, I know. She's already been on Dancing to the Stars to make it up, okay? So remember, a simple hypothesis tests the relationships between 2 variables. So here's what I wrote. The more exotic cats that are in the audience during Carol's performance, the higher she will rank with the judges. So I have exotic cats as one variable, and the higher she will rank as the other. Simple hypothesis. All right, now think about a simple hypothesis that you are going to do for your research report. And this should be on your activity. Complex hypothesis. Remember, a simple hypothesis tests relationship between, that should be a complex hypothesis tests the relationship between more than 2 variables. So, many universities have found themselves live streaming their college courses due to COVID-19. Write a complex hypothesis regarding these students. A complex hypothesis could look something like this. Student exam scores are higher for streamers who wear pajamas and eat breakfast rather than those who wear pajamas and who don't wear pajamas and eat breakfast. So you've got variable number 1. We want to know what their exam scores. They are higher when they wear pajamas and eat breakfast. So you've got exam score, pajamas, eat breakfast. So that is a complex hypothesis, more than two variables. Think about and work on your activity, a complex hypothesis for your research project. Remember, we're going to be testing these when we get it to your survey. Okay, so now we have an associative versus causal. Associative reflects a relationship between variables that occur in existing natural settings without any manipulation. So an example of this is the higher the amount of sleep at night before an exam, the higher the exam score. Now causal, remember we had causal research, causes, and it predicts the cause and effect between two or more dependent and independent variables. So this is a hypothesis you could have for your causal research. Higher test scores is prevalent in students who eat breakfast the day of an exam as compared to those who skip breakfast and eat a snack prior to the exam. So wow, this is pretty complicated, right? You've got eats breakfast the day of the exam as compared to eat breakfast and a snack prior to the exam. Okay, so that again, remember causal is an experiment. So you would experiment taking two groups of students and seeing which is we're manipulating adding a snack. Okay, all right, here's the associative hypothesis. All right, Tom Brady recently left the New England Patriots to play quarterback for Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Create an associative hypothesis for this scenario. Remember, an associative hypothesis reflects a relationship between the variables that exist in a natural setting without manipulation. So, the more passes Tom Brady in Tampa Bay throws, the more games the Buccaneers will win. So you're hypothesizing the more he throws in Tampa Bay, the more he will win. It just is what it is. The more you throw, the more he'll win. Okay, so that's pretty easy, right? Now you are going to create an associative hypothesis for your research project. Causal. McDonald's recently introduced a Travis Scott meal, which includes a burger, fries, and a drink for $6. So I want you to write a causal hypothesis. Remember, it predicts the cause and effect relationship between two or more dependent and independent variables. So McDonald's will double sales of the quarter pounder with cheese sandwich when an employee wears Cactus Jack t-shirt and a Travis Scott meal poster is in view of the customer as opposed to those who only wear the shirt and the poster is not in view. So you are looking at a cause and effect relationship between the t-shirt and the meal poster compared to the t-shirt alone without the poster. That's a good one. All right, so now you are going to create a causal hypothesis for your research project. So remember, this is all on your activity sheet. Now let's do directional versus non-directional. Directional specifies the existence and expected direction of the relationship between variables. So there is a positive or negative relationship on campus between courses and student satisfaction. So you could say the higher the satisfaction of students has a positive relationship to the course. Or you could say the lower student satisfaction has a negative relationship with the course. All right. Non-directional only predicts that there's a relationship between the variables. So it doesn't mean it goes one way or another. You just know there's a relationship between courses and student satisfaction. But you don't know whether satisfaction is related to courses or not. There's just a relationship there, so you have to dig a bit further. Then we have null and research hypothesis. The hypothesis, also known as the statistical hypothesis, is used for statistical testing and interpretations. It states there's no existence of a relationship between variables. This means that your prediction doesn't happen. There's no relationship between exam score and gender. So if you think that women score higher on exams than men and it comes out as no relationship, the null hypothesis is that it's inconclusive. Research hypothesis or alternative states that there is an existence between a relationship between the variables. So you could say, if after your test, your hypothesis is, yeah, I believe there is a relationship that women score higher on exams. So after you do your research, you can determine whether or not the null hypothesis is rejected or accepted. It's a fancy way of describing whether or not your hypothesis was as you predicted. Okay? All right, so we've spent a lot of time looking at some hypotheses, and I know you're going to have to noodle through this a little bit as you go through your activities, but I want you to understand the differences in how we use different hypotheses or not. Know what a hypothesis is. It's an educated guess. It is a testable prediction that you have. And, I want you to also think about how can you use hypotheses in your career, not just at the end of this project. Okay, if you have questions or comments, reach out to me. I'm available. Email me and Canvas. And if you're interested in learning more from the Marketing Doctor, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Take care, everyone, and have fun creating the predictions and the hypotheses for your research study. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful week.